Welcome to the U.S. Senate seat debate between Democratic incumbent Senator Tim Kaine and Republican candidate Hung Cao. The debate is a partnership between Norfolk State University and Wavy TV 10 that will air 7 p.m. live. For WNSB Beats and Ballots news coverage, I am Olivia.
And I am Reonna.
We've produced this short debate and election preview as a part of the WNSB Beats and Ballots initiative aimed at educating and empowering the electorate. We look into some of the local races, congressional races, and, of course, give you a preview of tonight's debate coverage. But first, let's discuss a handful of important housekeeping issues. Here in the state of Virginia, in-person early voting started on September 20th, 2024. As a reminder, the deadline to register to vote in the national election is October 15th, 2024. So there is still time to get that voter registration card. If you missed the deadline, you may still be able to register and cast provisional ballot.
For those of you who intend to mail in your ballot, the deadline to apply is October 25th, 2024. The last day of in-person early voting is November 2nd, 2024, and of course, Election Day is November 5th, 2024. Polls open statewide at 6 a.m. All registered voters in line at their polling place on Election Day by 7 p.m. will be allowed to vote regardless of their place in line. In order to register to vote in the state of Virginia, you must be 1, a resident of the state of Virginia and a U.S. citizen, 2, be 18 years old. Any person who is 17 years old and will be 18 years of age at the next general election shall be permitted to register in advance and also vote in any intervening primary or special election. 3, not be registered and plan to vote in another state. 4, not currently declared mentally incompetent by a court of law. 5, if convicted of a felony, your right to vote must have been restored. Visit the Virginia Department of Election for more information. Upon arriving at your polling place, you will need to provide either an acceptable form of ID or sign an ID confirmation. Your Virginia DMV issued driver's license or ID is acceptable. Several other forms of ID are acceptable, including a U.S. passport, valid IDs from either the military, a valid student ID from either a public or private high school or institution of higher learning here in the state of Virginia, or even a utility bill. A full list of acceptable identification documents can be found at www.elections.virginia.gov.
The voter registrar office was notified that an error was made on the mail-in ballots. Virginia Beach districts were printed out of order for the upcoming local elections, and according to the city officials, they are in the process of working to mail the corrected ballots. Updated ballots will be mailed to ensure that the 45-day voting window is met. However, in-person voting will not be impacted. The first day of early voting kicked off with a strong start in Virginia Beach. A line at the registrar's office stretched past the building with special appearances by Congresswoman Jen Kiggins and Miss Cotter Smossel. Both Republicans and Democrats expressed their eagerness for this election and exercising their freedom to vote. One person even shared that, quote, "If you don't start at local, you won't go up the chain. The thing is, if you don't stand for something, you'll stand for nothing."
Hi, this is Dr. Eric Claville from the Claville Report and State of the Water, telling you to go out and exercise your right to vote. In 2024, we'll elect the next president of the United States, and in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we'll elect the next U.S. Senator. But also, the Virginia legislature referred one constitutional amendment to the 2024 ballot. The property tax exemption for veterans and surviving spouses amendment would amend the language in the Virginia Constitution regarding property tax exemptions for veterans and surviving spouses to say died in the line of duty rather than killed in action. This slight change from dying in the line of duty provides surviving spouses with the tax exemptions for those veterans that die while doing their job, as opposed to dying while in action in war. For those of you that vote for this amendment, simply vote yes. For those of you that will not, vote no. But whatever you do, make sure you exercise your right to vote in this election and the next. Again, this is Dr. Eric Claville for State of Water and the Claville Report. Back to you, ladies.
Thanks, Dr. Claville. Now, if you live in Chesapeake, Newport News, Norfolk, Portsmouth, and Virginia Beach, the full slate of races includes City Council, School Board, Sheriff, treasurer, commissioner of the revenue, the clerk of the circuit court, and the Commonwealth's attorney. Both Hampton and Suffolk are not holding elections for the clerk of the circuit this election cycle. Starting in Virginia Beach, the at-large mayoral race features incumbent Bobby Dyer running against candidates Sabrina Wooten, John Moss, Chris Taylor, Cheryl Turpin, and Richard Qualowich. Chesapeake mayoral race features the incumbent Rick West and NSU graduate Don Carey. Portsmouth incumbent mayor Shannon Glover, also NSU graduate, defends his seat against Lisa Lucas Burke and Harold Carruthers. There is a three-way matchup in Norfolk's mayoral race where incumbent Kenny Alexander faces challengers Thomas Paul Lehman and Giovanni Dalmau. Hampton will see new leaders fill the mayor's office as Jimmy Gray faces Rochelle Wallace. In his re-election bid, Suffolk Mayor Mike Dummin faces David Bostelman, Clint Jenkins, and Trey Birch. Newport News last elected its current mayor, Philip Jones, back in 2022. Newport News will hold its next mayoral race in 2026. Next is Olivia and Alex Askew on why voting in this election is important for you and your community.
Hampton Roads native and delegate Alex Askew shared with me his experience at the DNC and how attendees of this event should be activated to inspire their communities at home.
Absolutely. I think, coming from, the DNC, coming from the convention, I know personally I've been telling everybody to make sure, they go out and they register their information, the voter registration information is up to date. When you go to church, you go to school, you go to the gym, wherever you go, make sure folks are registered to vote. Make sure folks know, that election day is in November, but early voting starting in a couple of weeks in Virginia here. So make sure you go and vote. You vote early and bring a friend, bring a cousin, bring a brother. Just make sure everybody's voice is heard, right? And I think it's our duty to make sure that folks, participate in the electoral process. So it's a super big election. Folks say it all the time, and I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but I truly believe this is one of the most important elections, of our lifetime.
He also spoke about the local and federal elections happening now and how voters can be involved and informed in this election process.
So to your point, we have, in particular in Virginia Beach and in parts of Norfolk, we have school board races, we have city council races in Virginia Beach, and in Congressional District 2, we have, a big CD2 race, and of course we have a U.S. Senate and the presidential. So it's a lot of races that we have coming up. So I just want to make sure, folks are, informed and look to vote for the person that truly represents them and their issues, whether it's, funding public schools, whether it's community and gun safety, whether it's transportation. I think, from top to bottom, pretty much every issue is being touched in one of these elections, whether at the top of the ballot or, at the bottom of the ballot, and make sure that folks check every single box that's on their ballot, even if, you have to turn it over. So just make sure folks are informed going in on the issues, on the candidates, and make sure they vote for the person that's going to represent them and have their best interests, when they get to their respective positions, whether it's school board or the presidency.
Delegate Askew then went on to explain how the conversation around politics and elections have or haven't changed over the years.
I think there are differences. Right? I think oftentimes you have to look at who's in charge, right? Who ultimately has the ability to sign these bills, right? Whether it's the president or in our case at the state level, whether it's the governor. So we fought for criminal justice reform. We had the majority a few years back, and we had the governor's mansion in the Democratic hands. So we made a lot of changes when it came to many of those things. But it's just I think progress is a slow process. So I know a lot of voters are like, how come this wasn't done from this year to that year? But, we have to really look at how the levers of power, so to speak, are pulled. And, whoever has the power has the ability to make these rules. And, even if we don't get them passed, and this is one thing I always try to work on and talk about, even if we can't get this passed in the moment or this year because we don't have a governor or a president that's going to be able to sign this bill or both bodies of a respective chamber or General Assembly body, but we want to make sure we work on some of these issues, whether it's at the local level or the state level, or just work on the policies, even though they may not get passed. So when we do have the opportunity to pass this bill, it's ready for prime time.
Many voters are still apprehensive about who is the best candidate to represent them and their concerns. Delegate Askew ensured that voting is crucial regardless of how long the process is. He also emphasized the importance of this election and how much is at stake.
We look at the president, and I'll start here with the presidential race, right? I think it's important that we look at this next president is going to have the ability to potentially pick 2 to 3 Supreme Court justices, right? I think we've looked at the Dobbs decision, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and that which is protecting a woman's right to choose, right? And how it's now at the state level. And Virginia currently is the only state in the South that has really easily accessible women's reproductive health care, right? So I think that's when we look at the ability to vote and maybe one issue you don't like, you have to look at the sort of broad spectrum or a politician's broad policy stance and, look at why this person is probably, you might not agree with them on this one particular thing, but, their overarching message and their policy platform, how that's going to affect you on a day-to-day basis.
As he spoke further about political engagement, he explained what to be mindful of as you're researching candidates and registering to vote in November.
I just want individuals to vote and, more importantly, do their research, right? There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation on the internet. So I want folks to go to reliable sources, right? Make sure that, they get the true information and not just some TikTok video, right, that's obscure and has a lot of likes. So they might think that it's real, it's factual, right? Go to these sites and make sure you're registered to vote too. Go to iwillvote.com. Make sure you know your polling places, the hours of your polling place, and just make sure you're registered so you don't get there on election day and you're not able to, right? Because I know a lot of times folks get disappointed. They're waiting to vote and they weren't able to. And, for that matter, make sure you vote early, right? Like I said, in a couple of weeks in Virginia, early voting starts. So make sure you can vote early so you don't even have to worry about election day.
For more information on Delegate Askew, go to www.alexaskew.com or visit virginiaassembly.gov to find the delegate in your district.
Now that we covered the local city elections, next is Carlos with the race for the U.S. representative seat.
Hello, I am Carlos Tankard for the Spartan Echo on assignment for WNSB News. In the race for the U.S. representative seat for District 2 is the incumbent Republican Jen Kiggins, who is running to defend her seat against the Democratic candidate Missy Cotter-Samsel. District 2 covers the cities of Virginia Beach, parts of Chesapeake, Suffolk, Isle of Wight County, Accomack County, Northampton County, Southampton County, and Franklin City. Kiggins previously served in the Senate from 2020 to 2021 and has raised $4,233,404 for her campaign. Her opponent, Cotter-Samsel, has raised $1.2 million for her campaign. Samsel is a Navy veteran and also serves as the Virginia Citizen Representative on the Chesapeake Bay Commission. She and her husband are Virginia Beach residents of more than 20 years. In terms of District 3, the Republican candidate running for the U.S. representative is John Sitka. He faces long-standing incumbent Bobby Scott. The district represents Norfolk City, Newport News, Hampton, parts of Chesapeake, and Portsmouth. Sitka has raised $2,160 for his campaign as compared to Scott, who has more than $600,000 on hand. Scott originally assumed the congressional seat in 1993 and has served ever since. Sitka previously ran in the 2023 House of Delegates election for District 93, as well as the 2022 Norfolk City School Board for Ward 3.
Hi everyone, I am Destiny Rogers from the Spartan Echo newspaper on a special assignment for WNSB News. The gubernatorial race is underway and November 4th, 2025 will be voting day. As of right now, Republican candidate Winsome Sears is running against Democratic candidate Abigail Spanberger. If these two get the nomination, this will be the first time two women will be running against each other, and in 2025, one of these ladies will possibly make history by being the first female governor in Virginia. Winsome Earl Sears, native of Kingston, Jamaica, migrated to the U.S. when she was only 6 years old. old. In addition to her various roles, she has served as Vice President of Virginia State Board of Education and as a presidential appointee to the U.S. Census Bureau, as co-chair of the African American Committee and the Advisory Committee on Women of Veterans to the Secretary of Veteran Affairs. Sears has served as the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia since 2022. Abigail Spanberger, currently holding the position of United States Representative, was born in Red Bank, New Jersey. Spanberger began her career of public service as a federal law enforcement officer working with money laundering cases and trafficking narcotics traffickers with U.S. Postal Inspection Services. In 2014, she brought her family back to VA, where she and her husband grew up. She then saw that division and dysfunction was threatening the country, so she decided to run for Congress. In 2018, Spanberger became the first woman ever to be elected to represent Virginia's 7th congressional district in the U.S. House. Remember, this gubernatorial race is set to take place in 2025. Back to you, ladies.
Hung Cao, who is running against incumbent Tim Kaine for the U.S. Senate seat, is a retired Navy captain. Cao came to the United States as a refugee from Vietnam in 1975 and moved to Virginia as a child, and is a proud member of the inaugural graduation class of Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Alexandria. He was commissioned as a Special Operations Officer at the United States Naval Academy and served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia. Cao holds a master's degree in physics from the Naval Postgraduate School and fellowships at MIT and Harvard. He and his wife, April, are the parents of 5 beautiful children in their family home to Purcellville, Virginia, where they have been active in their community and church. Next is Olivia with Tim Kaine's profile.
Tim Kaine is the Democratic candidate running for the Virginia Seat Senate. He is a member of the Armed Services Committee, Budget Committee, Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, and the Foreign Relations Committee. Some of the issues Kaine focuses on are creating jobs and strengthening the economy, protecting reproductive rights, defending democracy and the right to vote, and protecting the climate. Tim practiced law for nearly 2 decades and was later elected as councilman for Richmond, Virginia. He worked his way up the political ladder as mayor, lieutenant governor, and governor. In 2012, he was elected senator and is now running for re-election.
Thank you for listening to our debate and election preview. Olivia and I would like to thank Carlos, Destiny, and Dr. Clavel for that amazing coverage. Make sure you go out there and vote for this upcoming election for you and your community. You're listening to Hot 91, the soul of VA.